Let's quickly talk to Emmanuel so that we can let him go, keep watch on this particular situation. Emmanuel, I hope you heard what Captain Aliyu said. Were there any female police officers who approached the women? Who were those who spoke to them?
Well, none in sight, as I could see. There were policemen right there. One of them tried to appeal to the women to send, like I said, send one or two of their representatives. These women were resolved to move ahead. Well, just like the captain said, they are women, mothers, sisters, what have you, and whatever it is, I think the police will definitely have a word.
Very quickly, any idea of how they converged? Are they members of political parties or, you know, from around River State?
Well, I understand that sometime later today there will be a press brief by a group of political parties, but these women were mainly supporters of the APC.
All right, okay, Emmanuel, we'd like to thank you so very much, and we'll keep track on this particular one. While going over, before coming back to the studios here, we have a couple of other comments coming from people in River State concerning this issue. By the way, also in Uyo, we understand protesting men and women in Uyo town, and as soon as we're done, we'll get to our correspondents there so that they can tell us what exactly is happening in Uyo. Uyo, that's the capital of Akwa Ibom State. But for now, let's look at some of the reactions from River State concerning this protest going on in Port Harcourt.
They threw us tear gas. They've turned all of us back. There was no election in River State.
No, the election was carried out.
And they wounded quite a lot of people. So we're calling for the transfer of the wreck. Yes. We're calling for cancellation of the results.
Yes.
Well, as you said, Captain Aliyu, pretty short one there from them. But as you said, now that she's spoken, definitely this will get to INEC. It will also get to the Inspector General of Police, because we have seen him call on this program live to react to some issues and comments personally. And even Emmanuel Ojukwu, a couple of times, he too have calls to call in on the program. So we do hope that this particular one will also catch their attention and act pretty fast on this.
Yes,
Doctor?
Yes. Yeah, but I just want, I would like to react to one or two comments from Captain. I think that, yes, there were women, but we shouldn't address it just from that point of view, that maybe we need a female police officer. I think it's about the training of the police officers and men. I think they should be able to manage situation. I don't think that the situation has gotten to the extent where we should tear gas them. There are ways you can talk to people. I've been part of several protests, and I know that when you get to that level, you also know the repercussion if you move beyond the police barricade. You know, and they can, in some places abroad, they would explain to them that, no, we can't allow you to move beyond this place. It's not possible for you to go to INEC office. If you want to protest, you can stay here and keep chanting your songs and saying whatever you want to say. But as police officers, we can't go beyond this. And they would also explain why they can't do that. INEC office is sensitive. Now we can't allow anybody to go in and out. So I think that it's just about managing protests in Nigeria. I think there's a need for, it goes back to the discussion about capacity building even for police officers.
I agree with you.
Going back to the discussion about now, it's a critical moment. They are in the international center, and the results will be coming out. For me, as a Nigerian and as somebody who is on the field, who has talked to so many people, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm nervous. I've been praying, sitting here, just praying and saying that. This morning, I didn't allow my son to go to school because, you know, I live around Solo and Sele is a volatile area. There are hotspots in Lagos that you don't want a kid to be around that time at a particular point in time. Not that we're wishing, you know, but if you look at before the elections, the kind of things we hear, the 8 speeches, the fact that there was a peace accord, and you can see gradually people are not following the accord, and some of the things happening in different places between Saturday and Sunday. You will know that this is the morning after that we're talking about. And there's a need for us to begin to have foresight over astonishment, for us as Nigerians to begin to plan. So should this happen, so what do we do? And I think that before the election, there were a lot of identification, hotspots. Where are the hotspots? What should you not do when you see people gathering? Should you hang around there, or should you just move away? You know, and things like that. So I think that we should start talking to Nigerians that yes, we pray that everything goes on well, but we all need to be informed about how to run away from violence and how not to propel violence. So there are things that civil society organizations have also been working on, identifying stakeholders that can influence that crowd, that can go tell people and say, let's move, let's protest. We want to begin to identify them and start talking to them that there is a peace accord.
Well, you've said you're a little anxious. I'll go back to Professor Oshita, who is still in our Abuja studio as well. He said he is not anxious for whatever reason, and he says it's because Nigerians have voted for peace. But I'm going to ask you, Prof, if you can hear me, are you concerned about the situation in River State? What's your assessment of it? Oops, I'm being told that he's not there for now. We will continue on that line of discussion.
I agree with you totally on your take on managing protests by our police. But I want to share from my experience. You see, parties to a dispute can become very crafty when they seek to either make plain their grievances or outdo the other. Don't forget, it's a dispute. And I tell you, using of women exclusively can actually cause some kind of, you could preempt a situation by using, let me give you an example. Outside this scenario, we have had child soldiers being used, and you are caught between the devil and the deep blue sea when you see a boy that is your son's age, like 200 of them, and they're shooting, they're all on drugs or something. And you find out that the force behind them is actually preempting you with them, so you can behave in a way that will be inimical to you, but a leverage for him. So that's why I say we have to handle it very, very carefully, because all of us have a woman in our lives. And it's not really about the male-female gender chauvinism thing, but it's just human that ladies should be treated like ladies.
You know what, if you look at this protest now,
Yes.
it would seem that the police tried to appeal to them,
Yes, the police-
said send representatives to the INEC office. They didn't prevent them
No, they
entirely.
didn't. If you
They said send a
If
representative.
you observed, I said there wasn't really anything they wanted to go and say in the INEC office that they couldn't have said at that point the police barricaded them. But again, my feeling is they probably would have bonded and found more common grounds if there was a female police officer talking to them. Because I know how people respond to different scenarios, particularly in a crisis. Let me give you a typical worst case scenario approach to this. The way we behave, let's do some behavioral architecture here. If everything goes bust in Port Harcourt, we need not go into the bottom line of it, tear gas, horsewhipping people. There are key people in Port Harcourt that can come out and speak, and you see an entire inferno go down. Religious, traditional, leaders of thought, youth leaders, these are all what I call worst scenario solutions.
But you know, what one would have thought is that, I mean,
Yes.
I don't want to say that this protest was spontaneous in the sense that it's taken at least 48 hours for the women to come out since Saturday when whatever happened in Port Harcourt happened. But if you look at it, one would have thought that they'll be better organized, because if their point is to get their message across the INEC and not necessarily for the cameras,
Exactly.
a representative or two wasn't such a bad idea, was it?
Exactly. That is true. A representative or two is not a bad idea. But if you remembered, at the beginning of this panel, I said something about voting with your heads and not with your hearts. The same thing here. You're going to make your issues or grievances known with your heads and not with your hearts. Definitely you saw a group that was sentimental. You saw a group that was like, do I say obstinate? And you see, when you have such situations, it can only get worse.
What would you have advised the police to do? Because at some point, the women just sat on the floor, you know, and it was like, we're not going away from here. You're not going to let us pass. This is where we're going to do. What did you expect the police to do in that circumstance?
If I was, if I was in position of, if I was in a position, I would have basically whittled it down to one thing. What are they doing? Is it dangerous? What are they doing? Is it dangerous? My principal is the INEC office. If you're sitting down there, it doesn't threaten my INEC office in any way, let's sit.
But what about danger to the women themselves?
Hold on. That's part of my brief. Okay? What are they doing? Is it dangerous? Okay? If there is a situation where something dangerous could happen to them, let's assume they were sitting on a rail line, and I knew that a train could. Okay.
No, but this one they are sitting on
no,
the road.
we assume
a vehicle comes.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So how do we manage that now? Pending when we can get them to leave, either by persuasion or by teasing. There are other options to it. But when we get to the stage of using tear gas, it could be justified to have used tear gas, but the emotional and the sentimental repercussions may not be justified. Someone could see his wife tear gassed and he says, what the hell? Sister, those are the issues I'm saying that people could seek to exploit by preempting your action.
I think it won't be out of order for us to compare the two protests, because we saw the APC governorship aspirant lead some of supporters to the INEC office yesterday. We understood that the police led them through their barricade. Whether that was whether that was out of their power, we don't know, or maybe that was just deliberate. But they eventually got to the INEC office, and I think an INEC official came out to address them.
Yes,
I think it would be very in order for us to play that and see whether we really want a situation like that. It really got confrontational,
yes.
Even though we were not told that it got violent.
Before you play that, let me repeat something again. You see, if you look at the process, you're going to see a behavioral chain, and you're also going to see people on what I want to call the security value chain. You see, the electorate will take their behavioral cues from their leaders, and the police will also take their behavioral cues from the electorate. So the citizen, as in the electorate, are caught in the center. The leaders are at the one strategic end, and the police is on one strategic end. So we will really want to see a situation where the leaders themselves can be arrowheads to what kind of behavioral change, behavioral strains or cues will eventually give us peace. I saw the issues involved with Port Harcourt, and look, there are ways you can say no without having to ruffle feathers.
Let me not lose
yes,
Chris on the line. I'll
please.
come back to you. Just hold on, pause a moment, Chris.